All right, so I got those claps in for you. By the
Thank
way,
you.
we're starting now because, I want to make sure that people know that you forced me into doing these claps. Now, I'd love that as I'm doing that because obviously the claps only help me, but,
Yeah. I mean,
So,
now when you go to your video,
what? When I go to, what about you?
when you go to edit the video, all you have to do is line up your hands with the sound on the tape.
I'll line up my hands up. They're playing my song. Butterflies fly away. Don't sue me.
Oh,
Was it who does that song?
Miley Cyrus, Party in the
Thank
USA.
you, thank you. I know you're my Miley Cyrus expert in the group,
Um,
so I knew
I'm
I knew
here
you would
for
know. Anywho, welcome to the
trivia
College Shifters
challenges all week long.
podcast. Joining me today is going to be myself, Juan Johnson, aka Afro, amateur race car driver ish kind of person slash amateur
Bitch.
venture guy slash guy with way too big dreams and not enough money to do big dreams. I'm joined here today by my friend who's much more rational and reasonable and arguably because of it is much better off for it. Brian Evans, who does
Thank you.
other things. Brian, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Again, uh, Brian, obviously, some of you may be listening and remember me. For those that don't, used to write for The Drive, used to write for Our Cars, used to do the Our Cars podcast, and then my own podcast, Audiomotive Podcast. Off road shit in my free time. And yeah.
I'm still bummed that we didn't really have like that there wasn't really a good way to tie in the old podcast stuff because it's like God, we have so many like how many we reached like a crap ton of episodes. I think we were like 50 or we were I know we were past 50. I think we were to like 60 at least.
No, I feel like Shout Engine just went like weird.
I mean, that is correct. They did like go weird.
I mean, like their site just like was like very difficult to use. I feel like they've never improved their site over the years.
Yeah, I mean that can happen, especially because improving a site costs money. Wow,
Yeah,
we were on episode 74.
how was that?
Yeah, so we're definitely we definitely crawled back a little bit in terms of time progress there.
Well, so really, this is like we're almost at technically 100 times of podcasting.
We're getting close. I mean, we have four. This will be episode 14 of this podcast, and then trying to think if there's anything else to it, but yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Although obviously that was because that last one. I mean, we podcasted for like 2 years pretty consistently. So it was like obviously we had off months and all sorts of other stuff, and we didn't start at the beginning of one of the years. So, but that's how we got there was when we were doing it once a week, semi reliably. It's pretty
Yeah,
easy to chunk through them that fast. Which we're gonna try. We're gonna see if we can step it up a little bit, and we're gonna
maybe
mix things up.
there's gonna
Uh,
be some changes to the format of this podcast.
yeah, we haven't talked to them about that, have we?
5 loyal listeners out there. Hopefully, there's more of you. Instead of reading the news like we've been doing in the past, we're going to try and move more to a content-driven format. Um, talk about our experiences, talking about
I'm sorry
what
about that. I should have muted my phone.
amateur hour over here.
I know,
And
man,
we're
dude.
gonna try bring in guests for you that have interesting stories to tell and are doing interesting things with cars. So hopefully, as we continue to work on the new format, you all enjoy it and y'all stick around.
And if you don't like it, then so it shall be.
Yeah, the door's there.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, I guess we're gonna go and kick things off today with that. We both, me and Brian, have recently had some experience with shopping for new things. So I'm gonna proceed to whine and bitch and moan about my
Let me hear.
experiences with it.
Let me
Who
hear
wants
what
to
you
go
look.
first? Because I have a lot to whine and bitch about.
I want to hear about you looking for trucks.
You want to hear about me? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, those of you guys know I am personally not a huge truck guy. There are like all of 5 trucks that I like, and those trucks are all absolutely ridiculous and hilariously like not affordable. And they consist of, as you've likely guessed, the F-150 Raptor, both first gen and current gen and future gen. Not that it's been released yet, but we know it's coming. The Rebel TRX, the what is why am I spacing out? the SRT10 Ram, and then pretty much everything else. So I guess I lied. It's not even like 5 of them. It's like 3 trucks. Oh, whoa, yeah. The F-150 Lightning, the OG Lightning, and then I feel like there's something else that I will say I did find out just recently about the Shelby Super Snake, which is a thing, which it's a single cab, like it's, and I'm talking about the modern one too. It's a single cab with a supercharger on it that makes like 770 horsepower
I
from
don't think
Shelby.
that
That thing's cool.
Shelby doesn't only actually makes it.
Who makes it?
I think it's a company called Tuscany Motor Company.
It might be. I mean, they call it the Shelby Super Snake.
Well, yeah, well, like Tuscany Motor Company, they also build like the Harley Davidson edition. Uh,
Okay, well, that explains a lot. I mean, at least
they
this one actually means something, though. It's not just a badge up thing.
they used to build the one of the Shelbys.
Maybe the
It,
last gen Super whatever
yeah,
Bob.
they Shelby might have taken it back in house. But yeah, there's it's
Well,
they
all that
also
matters
custom
is it's
stuff too.
707 horsepower in a shorty truck, and
Yeah.
it's cool, and it's actually like street-ish focused, which is kind of neat. Although apparently the brakes are piddly. Like apparently, I think it keeps like the regular F-150 brakes. So, and don't quote if I'm wrong on that. I could be, but at least from the quick review I watched, the brakes do not keep up to the speed that it carries.
So at least in 2016, they got together. Shelby and Tuscany Motors did.
Okay. Well,
But
either
the
way,
one thing,
those are
well,
like
I
the
sent you the
5.
link in the podcast channel
And
on Discord.
don't make
The
me. You got to send these things to me on Slack, bro. Otherwise, I'll mess up the Discord recording.
ooh, my bad, I forgot.
You were just hurting my
There's
biscuits
so
here.
many places to try not to send stuff.
I know. It's hard. Life's hard, buddy. Yeah. Okay. So see, that's the thing that I'm not talking about though, because this one's like it's like a Raptor knockoff thing. There's actually like a street truck thing that they make now. So
But
maybe they change because I literally just read
they
an
could have
article.
changed up because like I did find someone selling a Shelby Super Snake crew cab for 100 grand.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I know, dude. These things were going because I found when I first started
Carpeted
shopping.
bed.
Yeah, if you like just search for F-150 Raptor on like Auto Tempest, not sponsored, then you will like if you just search by Raptor and search by most expensive, these guys pop up all the time because dealers put better than a Raptor. They put all the buzzwords in the search to
Okay, so
try
this
and
the description on this one says 395 horsepower.
let's see. Let me see if I can find the thing that I was
I know
talking
there's a
about.
700 horsepower one. I'm not arguing with you about that, but I just didn't know they also made a freaking
Yeah, there's it's literally like a crazy like
like this.
lightning.
Yeah,
It
I
is
know what
the
you're talking about. I watched the drag race with it.
yes, okay, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But
Oh yeah,
I'm you're right. I can't find it either. Like
so
I'm
okay,
finding crew cabs, another crew cab. Maybe they do it in both a crew cab
yeah.
and a
So
single.
Tuscany Motors, I guess, is still building them. Is what it reads like, and it's because it said on their website or that article I sent you, they will be having a 395 horsepower version that starts at 85 grand, and then a 700 horsepower supercharged version for 100 grand.
Jesus Christ, dude.
And
No,
that's
that's just gross for what like
yeah, and
not
like
this
because
is
you can
one of
get
those few times. So
yeah because
you'll constantly yeah,
here's another one I'll put you in the Slack. So you can get the Super Snake however you want it. So
okay.
here's one that's a Super Snake that's supercharged and lifted.
Gotcha. Okay, so you
So
just
it's
do it however you want to have it
yeah,
spiced up. Got it.
yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those few times where you will like I mean, I guess yes, you are getting a warranty with these, but this is one of the few times you'll hear me say you're better off doing this yourself. Buy a regular work truck for 26 grand, supercharge it for like 15 grand, buy your own wheels and tires and you can basically make something that's decently on par with this for like under 50 grand. You just won't have a warranty unless if you blow it up, you're willing to completely restore it to stock. But even then, the worst thing is nowadays with modern cars, like they can tell if the ECU has been reflashed, and they can tell if a bunch of things have been done to it. So you don't get away with things as easily as you once did.
Yeah.
But that being said, I honestly, it's not like for the money that you're paying, it's not worth it to me because you're still not getting that great of. It's like a 3-year warranty or whatever it is. So honestly, hell, buy a used truck for very
Well, I
cheap.
mean, a lot of them too have other companies you can go through that include warranties, like the F-150. You can go through like Beechmont Ford near Cincinnati or Lebanon Ford. There's probably some others. They'll sell it to you brand new with a Roush supercharger on it. Might as well just do that.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to pay for the Shelby name at all,
Mhm.
because that's surely a large part of that is adding all that bling and the Shelby stuff and the big wheels and tires that they all have on them.
Yup. So,
Saying,
at the end of the day, if your goal, I guess if you really want turnkey and you want zero hassle whatsoever and you want zero downtime, you just want to walk into the showroom and walk out with it, and you've got 6 figures to burn on a truck, then you know what? Go for it. But honestly, if you've got 6 figures to burn on a truck, I would just say buy a TRX. Because then
yeah,
you get the same thing, but you actually get a full blown 5-year warranty. Like you get the full nuts and bolts. Now that being said, I guess again, if your goal is a street truck, then yeah, that is what the TRX is not. But so coming back to the original point of all of this is just the fact that I'm not super duper interested in trucks. I like the ones I like because they're all Baja based, and that's inherently in the nature of rally, because Baja is just rally with not narrow roads. It's rally in the desert instead of down county roads. Um, and that being said, a lot of street truck stuff doesn't really interest me. And boring trucks. Okay, to be fair, I'm insulting a lot of people, but like the non hype trucks, unfortunately I'm a bit of a basic bitch. I like the cool trucks. So that being said, the idea of buying, like I've even told you guys, like, oh, my tow rig is gonna be a V8 F-150. I'm gonna keep it cheap and da 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 da. Well, anywho, I have officially talked my way out of that because now that money is becoming a real thing, because that was the thing, is before I didn't even have the money to do a cheap truck, so it was like, okay, so I can just say whatever I want, aim for the moon, because if you aim for the moon, the worst thing that'll happen is you hit the stars. Um, but that being said, now I've had some opportunities and some other things that have made money line up, and likewise, I'm planning on doing 3 grid life events next year, as well as I'm going to be crewing for a stage rally car for at least 4 stage rallies next year. Then on top of that, there is a new track opening up. By the way, if you guys didn't hear on my last podcast, Ozark International Raceway. It's going to be freaking awesome.
wake me up when
2.8
you're done
mile
talking
course.
about it.
And it is going to be 2.5 miles away from where I live, and it is an absolutely phenomenal track on paper. And I'm literally going to replace every single track day on my schedule this year with a track day there, if the schedules align and everything works out. So that being said, it's fine for me to drive 30 minutes out to Gateway, because then if I blow up, I can use my unlimited AAA tows to get it back and forth, from there, and it's easy. Whereas going out to, the Ozarks Raceway, it's like right at the limit of my 200-mile tow, and you only get, even as a platinum member, you only get one of those platinum tows. So it's like, okay, time to start actually looking into investing into something to haul my stuff. Because likewise, also, like, I was going to do rallycross and autocross nationals this year. Those have since been axed from the plan because it's money, 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 money. I ran the numbers, and it's just like, you know what, if I can say, because unfortunately, anytime you introduce long distance travel, you
Yeah,
are introducing costs. Like, it's just like, suddenly hotel costs. You need to stay for 2 days. That's 200 to 300 bucks.
sleep in the
Because
truck,
I'm a fancy beach, and so because of that, I don't stay in the $69 a night motels.
sleep in the truck.
And the other thing too is that like I said, I'm gonna start trying to bring people with me to support these, and so I'm not gonna make them deal with sitting in the Roach Motel that has bed bugs. And like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you can be like, oh, there's plenty of FI in hotels. It's like, and yes, I do agree. I grew up dirt poor. We stayed in the $69 a night motels all the time. But that being said, there were some gross ones and there were some shady things that happened. And like, even when I did my track day at RPM this year, um the guys that I went with, they even said they stayed in the cheapest motel they could find, and they had bed bugs. Like, no joke, like, not even exaggerating. There were bed bugs at their motel, and it's just like, that was like that reminder where I actually paid like maybe an extra 60 to 70 bucks for the weekend. Because I think my total cost was, oh no, that was the other thing, is I didn't stay an extra. I stayed for one night and I paid like 159 to stay in an Airbnb, but my stay was awesome. It was magical. I love that place. Next time I go to RPM, 100% staying there again. Um, and it was worth it because I was
Yeah.
comfortable, I was well rested, I didn't have any hassle or stress associated with that. And that's sort of the thing that I'm trying to build to, because my life has been way too much stress, way too much BS, way too much tension. I just need to sleep and relax in what few opportunities I have. So
Yeah.
come
It's
back
not
full.
worth it.
Yeah. So long story short is I fast tracked the whole getting a truck thing, because it's like, I do have a friend with a truck and trailer who could take me to the Grid Life events, and then I could continue to do my same usual BS of just loading a crap ton of stuff in the trunk of the S2000 and then hauling it there. And yes, I could even, get like a hitch and then get like a race day trailer and be able to bring tires and all sorts of other stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still a 220,000 mile race car that gets beaten the hell out of. Things go wrong, and it's not fun when you have to, like, I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but it's not fun when you have to vice grip a brake line closed and drive home with three brakes. So, as I've had to do once before in the WRX, not fun, by the way. It's very sketch, very sketch. Um, so long story short is, it's just like, I want to be able to rest a bit more, and plus also, honestly, I could use a chillaxing thing to drive, because both of my cars are, my WRX rides like it's on cheap coilovers, because they're gravel coilovers that are designed to take jumping impacts. So because of that, they're valved very stiffly. And then you've got the S2000, which actually rides fantastic, by the way. Again, they're not a sponsor or anything, but massive shout out to Olin's. They're like the kings of this. They're the
Oh,
kings of this shit. Um, and like, legitimately, the S2000 is the most even out of our Dodge Grand Caravan. Our Dodge Grand Caravan has aftermarket air suspension for its lane feature, and it's got spacers and all sorts of stuff. It rides like a truck. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world either. And so literally, my S2000 is my most comfortable riding car at its full soft setting.
yeah.
But that being said, you are locked in place. You have to keep your arms stiff, because, like, I've said this a million times, and for those of you guys who are listening and not watching, for those of you guys who are watching, this is a lane change. For those of you guys who aren't watching, imagine a steering wheel in front of you, or if you're listening to this while you're driving, imagine the steering wheel you're holding, and then I'd say, twitch your shoulder the same way you would to shrug. Like, if you wanted to shrug a shoulder to somebody, do that. That's a lane change. That is
Yeah.
a lane change in the S2000. It's just, it is, the ride is comfortable, but the experience is not. The other thing too is that, as a man, I have to spread out. I have to spread my legs whenever I can. Duh. It's like by law. And anywho, there's literally no, like, your right leg is already against the transmission tunnel, and your left leg can go like meep 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 meep. It's got like maybe an inch of back and forth like toggle room. So you are locked in place the entire drive there, and it's only going to get worse when I get bucket seats and a harness and all
Yeah.
sorts of other stuff. Like, again, sounds like I'm being a big old beach baby, but I'm sorry. I'm 20, soon to be 27-year-old I'm getting close to my 30s. I'm still a baby boy as far as most of you guys
Very
are
much
concerned.
so.
But my body has aches and pains that it shouldn't, and it's because I treat my body like trash. And I personally intend for my body to keep working past 30. So long story short is time to get a truck, because then I can bring people with me reliably without without making their lives terrible. And likewise, it makes a lot of the things I want to do in the future plan. Because by the way, fun fact for those of you, there's so few listeners, this is still going to be a surprise to most of the world, but for those of you guys who are here and have been here, you'll be super excited when this happens, like a year from now. But I made it official. I declared it to the group as an official I'm doing this. When I make my official I am doing this things, it means I'm about to do something stupid or even potentially less stupid, but when I commit to it, I'm committing to it. So like Grid Life technically this year was a I'm doing this regardless. So my I'm doing this regardless is I've promised the WRX, if the motor survives this year, if I can get another season of racing out of my little EJ, then my big splish splash moment on YouTube is that I'm going to attempt to put the engine. I wish I could remember the model. It's like because it's one of those cars where no one ever talks about the engine, they talk about the car. The model number is not that well known. I'm gonna put the engine from a 718 Boxster or Cayman in the WRX, which it's kind of one of those things where it's like it's stupid, but it actually makes more sense than most things, because it is literally just putting another 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged boxer motor in place of another 2-liter 4-cylinder boxer motor. It's just slightly different design with way better turbo design, because it's got the little variable turbo fin things. And honestly, the oil design is way better. Like Porsche actually put a lot of thought into their design. Sorry, Subaru, I love you to death, but you didn't. So it's weird. It's like a hybrid design between like a wet sump and a dry sump, where the oil pan is only, like, you guys can't see this on the podcast if you're listening, but the oil pan is super duper thin, and just the way, like, it is still a sump that sucks oil up and everything, but everything is more shallow and it's like a higher pressure system. So for all intents and purposes, it's like the best and worst of both worlds. But long story short is you get better oil delivery across the engine, so you don't get the same oil starvation issues that EJs get. Not that I'm going to be tracking the WRX, so it's really not going to be a problem. But for all intents and purposes, as weird as it sounds, the Boxster engine is actually more reliable than an EJ. If you take care of it, it is. So the end goal is to do that, and then if luck favors me and that actually gets some traction and people think it's cool, I may even be able to convince God, I always forget their name. It starts with an A and it's like Sadev Sa something.
Yeah, you're losing
Sa
me here.
Sa 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 sa,
You've
sa.
gone on this big long rant, and
Wait, it's yes, Samsonis. I'm butchering their name. It's Samsonas. They are a gearbox manufacturer, and they make a sequential gear set for Subaru transmissions. And so one thing I'm hoping is to work with them, because that would be my dream, is to reach out to them and go, hey, can you hook me up with, maybe not even free, just, I might even just end up paying for all of it, but to be like, hey, can you get me your sequential gear set, but then the input shaft, I need you to take this input spline and match it with the Subaru transmission gear setup and make
this
it the
might
right length.
be the dumbest thing anyone here has ever listened to.
Yeah, it's going to be
And
amazing,
it
because
is the
then
ranting and ravings of a
the,
lunatic. And I
the
just want to
Blaster
let
S
everyone know
makes
here
350
that
horsepower
we are not
stock.
indulging this man.
That is the choked horsepower. So once you do custom header, 3-inch exhaust all the way back through, I'm literally
Right,
going to
so
keep,
why don't
from
you
the
just get
outside, this
an
car is
STI
going to
motor?
look just like any other Subaru.
Just put an STI motor in it.
No, it's going to be the Boxster, because it's going to be awesome. Like, again, EJs are flawed motors. You have to do a lot to them to make them properly bulletproof. And like I said, this is only if this motor survives. If the motor dies this year, then money wise, time wise, a bunch of other stuff, it's going to be an EJ207, which is not exciting. It's just the JDM STI motor. But that being said, like I said, I think it would be awesome to just pick up a salvaged Cayman, and then I want to like potentially partner with Porsche St. Louis and have them help me diagnose like any of the things that I've got that are Porsche related, and then likewise then be like, help me figure out what things I need to transplant over in order for all of this to work. And then, like I said, and the other thing too is I think it would be awesome if I could get Cobb on board, because they do tuning for the 718. They have an access port for it. So literally,
This is
no joke,
just
nothing
going
about my
crazier
life,
and crazier and down a
nothing
rabbit
about
hole.
my life with the WRX would change. It would literally be like the same, but it's a Porsche heart. It's a Porsche heart with
Well,
everything else drivetrain wise.
at least you can have a truck for your reliable daily driver when you go into all this nonsense.
And that is another reason why I'm justifying the truck, is because then that gives me the ability to have the downtime with the WRX. Because right now, the life that I live, luckily, since my girlfriend is doing classes from home, the van is technically available to me, but I still try not to drive it a lot because at the end of the day, it's the as unfortunate as it is the most important car in our family. It's the only thing that we can transport Gabs around in. So, push come to shove, if there's a fire, that's the car I have to save. If I can only save one car, as much as it sucks. So that being said, I try just as a whole, I honestly just try not to use it because one, her parents have still been weird, so I'm technically still not registered under it. Like, it's a little bit easier because of the fact that at least I'm connected to the person who it's registered under. But it's like one of those things where it's a quick way for me to get shot if I drive it around and the wrong circumstances happen. For those of you guys who are not aware, I am in fact of the darker complexion. I do not sound like it. I do not have the name of it, but I am in fact that. So that being said, and this is a tiny jab. Obviously, Brian knows I don't actually holistically mean that, but at the end of the day, it's just not ideal to be, because like I said, I'm not directly insured or registered under that vehicle. It's all indirect stuff, so it becomes a complication and a bunch of other weird stuff. So long story short is the van is an option, but I try not to use it. And so because of that, my WRX and my S2000 share daily duty. I am now, is it? Yeah, no, I think I am at the 7 month. No, let's see. It was in, July, when both cars were fully operational again. So it has been 5 months now that both cars have been decently operating at one sitting. Most of the time, it's whichever one breaks. Like, I drove the S2000 all of last winter on snow tires because the WRX had a bad clutch and I didn't have the time to like I even had the money to fix it. I just didn't have the time to fix it. So anyway, coming back to the main point though, the truck will basically become my semi comfy daily driver thing where I can spread my legs as much as I want to and let my balls breathe. So that's the end goal, which gets us to the initial point of this topic, which is, like I said, I'm going to be shopping for a truck, and I was immediately depressed to
So
find out
yeah, so we've
how
just gone like
expensive they are.
30 minutes waiting to hear about you test driving trucks,
Correct. Yeah.
and you've gone in this giant circle and
Yes.
wasted everyone's time.
Absolutely. And we are back where we
So
originally needed to
let's
be.
hear about your
This is
test
an
drives.
orchestrated plan.
I just wanted to remind everybody
This
what
is
the
my
actual topic at hand
genius,
was.
my genius, Gene E us. Spell it
Oh,
JEAN
I'm just trying to remind everybody what the
letter
actual
E
topic at hand was supposed to be.
US. Gene E us. So long story short is any of you guys who have been in the market for a truck and have any sort of financial responsibility on your mind will have realized that due to a combination of factors, like there's a lot of things at play here, but basically if you don't have at least $12,000 to spend, you're not getting a truck that isn't a pile of shit. I'm sorry, flat out, to all of you
How
guys
much,
out
how
there
much
who
did you say
managed
again?
to, what'd you say?
Would you say again?
Yeah, if you want to
Oh,
spend,
well, I couldn't hear the monetary value.
Oh, $12,000.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
tough
if you
spot for
yeah,
trucks.
it's just flat. And you want to know what $12,000 gets you? It gets you a mid 2000s model with over 100,000 miles on it, usually closer to 150,000 miles, and with a few issues here and there, or not. And when I say issues, I mean small things like the tailgate is dented in, or there's some rough spots, or there's any number of little things. But like you were actually getting a solid piece of crap for $12,000. Like for the literally for and which this is the part that boggles me again as a car guy is that $12,000. I bought my WRX for 12,000 miles. I bought the cleanest Blobeye WRX wagon I have ever seen in my life. Like still to this day, my car is the cleanest one I have
But
ever seen,
there's
and
a
I
lot
bought
less
that for
going
twelve thousand
on.
dollars.
Yes, but there's a lot less going on with that Blobeye WRX wagon than there is a pickup. And then there's a lot less demand for said Blobeye WRX.
Which I think is dumb. I mean,
The
again, dude,
useful value
I
of a
haul lumber
pickup,
with my WRX. I
the
have
useful
hauled
value of a
lumber that
pickup,
is literally wider than my car on top of my
yes. But
WRX.
here's the thing,
It's a
and
work
here's why
vehicle.
truck resale values stay insane. Because that $12,000 truck with over 100,000 miles on it, that
150,000.
150,000, that's 10 years old, will still work for another 100,000 miles.
Wake. Wake.
There's contractors that will pick up trucks like
Wake.
that all the time.
Yeah, and then they'll be
Um,
replacing a wheel bearing on in January. They'll be
no,
doing something to the differential and
okay.
whatever.
You have small time landscaping guys. You got small time roofers. You have small time contractors that will pick those
It's
trucks up.
a crime, is what it is. $12,000 should buy you an okay truck. It shouldn't
Someone will
buy
pay
you a
it.
piece of crap.
Someone's going to pay it. No.
and and that's where we're at. Long story short, I was like, you know what? I can responsibly finance because I've got once the S2000 is paid up, like the S because yes, the S2000 is financed and I beat the crap. Now I owe $500 on it. Like it's not like I put a stupid loan out. It was a basic thing. Um, and no, I didn't take a $500 loan out. I've been paying this loan for 5 years. It's just going to be done next year. So I was like, I could easily add another $200 a month in payments, this coming year to buy, just like a cheap truck. It'll be a work truck. I'll just, beat the crap out of it, whatever. And then I find out that like half of my options I'm going to end up wrenching on as much as I wrench on my other cars. So it's like this just awkward valley where it's like basically there's no dirt cheap options. Everything is a decent investment. And then once you look at decent investment, then it's like, well, okay, so if I'm going to be spending 12 grand for a pile of crap, I might as well pay like 18 grand for something that actually will be a solid truck. But then
Yeah.
it's like
Well,
you nickel and dime your way up. It's like shopping for a Porsche where it's like, well, at 18 grand, I'm still getting like a
well,
2009 with
that's why
100 miles.
I bought my truck brand new. I didn't mean to, but I mean, as far as used ZR2s go, they just were holding their value so well that a used one with 30,000 miles was like 31 grand. A used one with like 10, 15,000 miles was 35 grand, and the
Yeah,
new one
which
was
is
36.
crazy because
So it's,
weren't they like in the 40s now?
I mean, MSRP is 40, but it's truck
Yeah.
month. So
But I mean, like the fact that you got a used one with thirty
I got a
thousand
new,
miles
I
on
got a
it,
new one.
or you got a new one. Wait,
I
oh,
bought
you're
mine
talking
brand
about like
new.
used ones. Yeah.
Yeah, the used ones are that high, so that's why I bought my brand new for 36. I'm like, I might as well pay the little extra
Yeah,
for.
exactly. You nickel and dime your way up because at that point it's like, why would I buy a used one that could be, honestly could end up to be a lemon because the
Yeah,
last guy treated it like shit. And so it's
especially
like
something like a ZR2, where it's
yeah. So basically, now at this point, I'm looking at, and it's like, as irresponsible as it is, I will get, and I'll fix all this stuff later. It's just right now, time is not in my favor. But like at this point, I'm genuinely considering putting out, one of those stupid 8-year loans just to get something to get going with, and then refinancing it next year for, a way less stupid thing because I'll be making more money next year. I'll be more squared away with a bunch of other stuff. But at least like right now, I need to get the truck, and I don't want to get something I'm gonna have to fight with. So it's like right now, I bumped my budget all the way up to 25 ish grand. Like I started wanting to spend 6, and I ended
Yeah.
up at 25 because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because paying that 25 is what actually gets me something that doesn't feel like a piece of crap. Which, okay, again, I'm a fancy bitch, and I love the fact that, also, like, to put things in perspective, boys and girls, I'm not just being like it's not like I'm coming from nice cars even to begin with. I drive a 2002 Honda S2000, which amazing car, honestly. Like the interior is actually pretty great for what it is. But I also drive a 2005 WRX. I drive plastic clap boxes. Like that is the S2000 is a very nice plastic clap box, but it's a plastic clap box. So it's not like I'm coming from something better. It's just that I'm looking at it and going, I'm spending this much money on something that isn't necessarily going to be fun to drive. Like, not saying that it's like going to be bad to drive, but
It's
I'm buying a
you're
tool,
buying. Yeah.
and so
I
for
mean,
that reason, if I'm not going to enjoy like most things about if it's not going to give me the enjoyment I want to have out of a truck, it
it's not
might
about enjoyment. It's you're about, like you mentioned at the
yeah,
beginning of the topic.
creature comfort stuff.
It, you want to be able to tow your S2000 to the track without worrying about being stranded.
Yeah, and so
And
it's
you
just
want to be able to tow to
yeah,
get to grid life without worrying about being stranded.
yep. And
And the
and
reality,
likewise, I don't want when I drag my friends and family out to go do grid life stuff with me because no one else wants to help out. I don't want them to have to bitch and moan and be uncomfortable the whole way there
I mean,
because I bought something where the foam is coming out of the seats.
well, learn to look better, and then get a
That's the
rear wheel
other thing
drive.
too is it looks. I mean, as
No,
great
learn,
as
learn
grassroots stuff is,
a
if
better
you show
deal.
up in a piece of trash with your brand on the side of it, people are going to think your brand is trash.
Well, look for learn to look for better deals,
Hey,
and
like I
then
said, I found a 2014 that I'm going to go look at tomorrow. That is an XLT with the towing package. It's a crew cab. It's got some nice features and stuff, and it looks great because it's 20. It's it's the first year of the facelift, so it looks like a brand new ish truck. It
and then
doesn't look like a 2021, but
if you go for a rear wheel drive truck, you'll save a lot of money.
so I did consider trying to find rear wheel because don't you? Oh, sorry. Don't you also get better towing capacity? Isn't like the max towing capacity on a rear wheel drive?
It's better or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
whatever
Whatever
it
my
is.
four-wheel drive system weighs, so it's like 100, 200 pounds tops.
Yeah, but this one is a four wheel. But like I said, I'm gonna look around, like, because that is the one thing I'm most excited about this process. And if anything, this is probably where I'm gonna hand the reins over to you. Is just this is the first time in my life that I've bought a vehicle that I actually had the chance to shop around and make a decision on, because my first ever car, Ford Taurus. My mom had no idea about cars. This is back when I didn't give a shit about cars. So my mom just asked a friend to find her something. So that friend looked on Craigslist, gave like 3 options. We bought the cheapest one that ran, which was the 1998 Ford Taurus for $1,200. And
Yeah,
this is back in 2000 and 2009. No, no,
yeah,
no, 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 no. This is back in 2010. So okay, it was back in 2010. So it was when a 98 was actually not massively old. But it was, it was still a used car, and it was a Taurus. It was, it's an old piece of crap. So loved that car. Drove the piss out of it for a year, and then the suspension blew, and it was going to cost more than what we paid for the car to fix it, because it's like,
yeah.
to replace all the suspension on a car, labor alone is like 700, $800 because of alignment and all the other stuff. So my next car, my mom had a friend who worked at a dealership, so we only shopped at that dealership. Because again, this is when I'm 16. I mean, I don't have any decision. So we go to that dealership. I almost bought an RX-8, which would have been the biggest mistake in my life, because as somebody who knew nothing about cars and nothing about rotaries, I would have thought I had a V6 in the damn thing for all I knew, and I would not have treated it right, and that rotary would have died a very sad and sudden death. But that being said, even though I was disappointed, I ended up in a Scion TC. Perfect car for me. Camry engine, Toyota transmission handled all of the abuse I threw at it. I mean, we're talking, how most modern cars have, like, they'll limit themselves when they aren't warmed up yet, like they'll stutter and they'll cut timing
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Well, I would mash the gas pedal and fight it until it gave me the power I wanted. Like, I would rip on this thing cold, and that thing was a
Work
absolute
hard.
tank. Through my learning process, because it was also my first manual, got to learn how to drive manual and do a bunch of other stuff. Great car. Like, in retrospect, I still genuinely would consider, like, I still think it's an awesome starter autocross car because of how it's set up. Like, it's a great car to learn stuff on. So then, but fast forward again, didn't have a choice there. It was literally the only sporty-ish manual thing on their lot. Everything else was a Toyota Econo box because it was a Toyota dealership. So then we fast forward to my first ever personal car purchase, and I wanted an '05 WRX wagon. Again, I had very unrealistic, like, well, actually, to be fair, so I wanted '05 because I hate even number car years, hate it.
That makes zero
Um,
sense at all.
yeah, don't I like zeros and fives.
Oh my
Like,
god.
if I can get a 2000, a 2005, a 2010, 2015, etc. I like zeros and fives. I can overlook it now, but that was like a hard preference for no
Yeah.
random reason back then. So I didn't want an '04 because it was an even number. I didn't like how it wasn't like evenly distributed or anything, whatever BS I thought.
Yeah.
So I wanted an '05, but the '05 also got an interior improvement because the '04 had the 02 and '03 interiors, whereas in '05 they actually upgraded the interior. So you got two real cup holders in the armrest versus one cup holder and then like a dummy pop out one that came out of the
Yeah.
dash. So it's like there, and then the seats were better. You got the what were basically redressed STI seats. Like, it was the same seat, but it just was cloth instead of Alcantara in the middle and cloth on the side. So you actually got, it was a way better interior car. So that being said, if you're like, "Well, that's stupid to want an '04 or '05 over an '04," no, the '05 is actually a
So
nicer
it makes
car.
sense. Yeah.
So I wanted an '05 WRX wagon. I didn't care about the color, but I wanted that car, and there were three for sale when I got my first real job. Because I got my first real job, it started January 7th, and I was at the dealership January 15th to try and seal the deal, and I bought my WRX on January 20th. Um, so basically, I had three choices. One of them had 140,000 miles on it, was a piece of crap. Another one of them had 130,000 miles on it, was a piece of crap. And oop, I'm flipping people off. Cool. Well, there we go. We'll go with it. But and then there was mine, which was perfect. It was $4,000 more than the next expensive one. So it was like, again, I was like, there's like there's like a $6,000 one and an $8,000 one, and this one was $12,000, but it was immaculate, had a clean record, one owner, low miles for the age, everything. And so I literally had no choice. I literally went to that dealer. I had no haggling power. I couldn't go anywhere else. So that was the only car I could buy. I had to take what they could give me for it. So I got like $1,000 discount. And that $1,000 discount was just them paying off the money that my mom still owed on the TC because she was underwater on it, and I didn't know that going in. Otherwise, I never would have agreed to trade it in. So I took, but at the same time, I was down with it because my mom
Yeah.
paid for that car. So it's like, you know what? That's fair. I'll take the rest of it. So
Yeah.
technically, the last $1,000 of my WRX were actually my TC.
Yeah.
So then the S2000, it was bought on impulse. It was cheap. It was $7,500 with 214,000 miles on it. There's no other example like it. It was a perfect car body wise. Like, it was a perfect bodied car with 214,000 miles on it, but it had a perfect service record. Like, it had 53 Carfax records, which, when you go through the numbers of how old the car is, it's
That's a
like
lot.
it's like the car was at a dealership every, like, I think it was like every 3 to 6 months. It was at a dealership getting
It is
regular
nice.
services done.
A little reassuring.
Yeah, so it was like everything about the car was perfect except the mileage because it got driven a shit ton. And but it's not like I had any other choice, and it was $7,500. I had money to burn, so I bought it. So long roundabout way of saying this is the first time I've actually gone car shopping, and I actually have the buying power to go, you know what? I'm going to go to another dealership. I'm going to go to another dealership. I'm going to try different things. I'm going to look for what I like. I'm going to actually try and get the best deal for what I want because I actually have the ability to walk away. And there's no better opportunity because trucks are a dime a dozen. If things don't work out with the first one I try, there will be 8 other ones posted within a week. So long story short is I'm very excited about that. And the reason why that transitions over is because I'm not the only one looking for a truck. Well, maybe truck, I'm not the only one looking for a new thing.
Pandemic has only helped used vehicle prices, so that's the other
Yeah.
problem. And especially trucks have been hard hit, even
Because so
more so
many
than
people
cars.
got fired and then started up their own contracting business because everyone thinks that they're smart enough to start a business, which is why you have so many shit contractors out there who don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Oh Lord, you just
That's a
are
different
ranting
story.
all over the place tonight.
Hey, it's a legitimate concern. Be afraid of your contractors, folks.
Yeah,
Half of them really are some loser who is about to get fired anyway.
I mean, I feel like it's probably easier to go into to landscaping and mowing grass.
I mean, people fuck that up too.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I'm saying like, that's an easier startup cost at least than contracting.
I don't even then because like if you
But
already have all the construction tools, then
that's
it's
true.
like that's the thought process a lot of these guys have. Well, I did drywall for this company, I might as well do it myself, and then they
Yeah.
do it themselves, and
Or guys that like worked, like you said, like did construction forever, and I think they make someone expert.
yeah, and it's like, no, you know how to put up drywall. You know nothing about running a business, which is
Yeah,
again why I say be afraid of every contractor because just because they seem like they know what they're doing, they very well may be about to get you out of what's the phrase? It's like out of something and at home, out of
out of
well,
house and home.
thank you, out of house and home, in terms of like just fucking shit up and then going, man, sue me, and then taking off. Not without even the gratification of going sue me. They'll just like
Yeah,
disappear because
yeah,
they're a shady, like stupid person who should be working at McDonald's.
yeah.
Man, I
Man.
realize I'm coming off like a rich asshole this entire time.
When it's really quite the opposite.
Dude, I was a food stamp baby. Like my whole life growing up, it's just that like yeah, I'm not selling my case here. I'm a black dude who sounds white as hell that screams that I'm like a lawyer's kid.
you
Technically
were
I am. My mom is a barred lawyer. It's just
you.
that, she wasn't a barred lawyer when I was growing up. This is very much a late in life thing. My mom turned her life around. She went from being a college student, a 40-year-old college student with a child out of wedlock and like no money to her name to being a college professor and a lawyer and a bunch of other stuff. She's a whole cool story. She's an amazing
Thanks, a Richard story.
and that's the reason why I sound like I do is because she made my peers college professors and shit. So now, I actually didn't even used to curse. The cursing is a new thing. That's like over the last 3 or 4 years where now I just like curse like a freaking sailor, and it's because my bullshit tender has gone like crazy. And
Yeah,
plus when you hang out with car people, it is like the most profane group of people. It's like that's your like social armor is if you don't curse, you're weird.
yeah.
Anywho, talk about your stuff now. I'm done. I'll shut my
45 minutes. 45 minutes later.
yeah. 45 minutes later. Actually, technically 49 minutes later.
So rude. So yeah, this week I went shopping for a bland crossover for my mother.
Yeah.
It's technically not bland. I realized that I never want to go car shopping with my mother again. Uh, I love my mother. I do. I love her to death. But the list of requirements I was given was small. and then often contradicted itself. Um, she didn't want a mom car. She did not want something that looked like a minivan. She wanted something, at least a little different. I don't know. Her main requirement was newer technology, and she wanted to fit her golf clubs. She had all sorts of preconceived notions about how big cars were, or rather, how small some of them were. Um, then half the time, she would look at something and go, "Oh, I don't like that." And I'm like, "Well, you want something that doesn't look like a minivan?" And then she'd go and look at a new Chevy Traverse, which I think looks like a minivan, and it is just straight up a mom car. I'm like, "Well, you said you don't
It's a
want that."
big old mom
Well,
car.
so we went in circles. We test drove a couple things, sat in a bunch of things. I think she's settled on a Chevy Blazer. Um,
And that's the
yeah,
new Blazer, right?
yeah, the new one.
The one that's ugly as sin.
I find it actually attractive.
I can't remember what. Actually,
It looks
genuinely,
like
there's been so many disappointing
it's like
crossovers.
the Mustang Mach E
Yeah,
with the
it's got that like where they took a bunch of body lines from the Camaro and then went "Whoop," and stretched it upward. And that
Camaro.
there's actually holy shit, that's actually exactly what they did. I just realized that. That is a
Look at
ZL1 Camaro front grille, my friend, but they just
Go look at the
stretched it up.
interior. Like the interior is literally the
That's
Camaro
literally the
interior.
Camaro interior. Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? Say what you will. I
I
like
mean,
that Chevy has like a cohesive design language across all their stuff. Like even the Silverados are they're a
like,
little boxier though, I will say, on the truck side, but in the cars, like wow, that is exactly like the Camaro that I test drove
like,
many moons ago.
and like I said, to me, they did a better job of making a Mustang Mach E than like to me that's better, more well done than the Mustang Mach E is.
Yeah, I'm gonna contest you on that one because I actually think that the Mustang Mach E very much took they took like the Jaguar approach in that like they actually did put a lot of effort into sculpting those lines to be kind of swooping. Now
I'm not
I
saying
will say the
I'm not
interior.
saying the Mustang Mach E is ugly, but I'm saying to me the Blazer looks more Camaro than the Mustang Mach E looks Mustang.
That is fair. I
I'm
will
not.
I
I
will
think the
take that.
Mustang Mach E is an attractive looking car. It's just I think the Blazer, like I said, the Blazer looks more like a Camaro than the Mustang Mach E looks like a Mustang. Is
Yep,
what I was trying to get at there,
I will 100%
especially
agree
on
with
the
that.
interior. See, the Blazer, I think it's very nice inside. The RS package, I think, makes it handsome. Um, interior is well laid out. It's like a midsize, competes with the Ford Edge,
By the
two
way, as
row.
per usual, for those of you guys who are watching and not reading, I will go ahead and show you just so you guys can visualize it. Oh, I didn't get the picture I wanted. Lame. Hold on.
Right.
You can kind of see. Yeah, we're gonna do it this way. We're gonna open image as a new tab. Boom. There we go. This is what we're talking about. That's the Blazer, and then I'm gonna do. I assume the Camaro interior hasn't changed a lot since 2015, right?
No, it hasn't.
Okay, cool. So I can look at. I just wanted because I drove a 2015 or 2016,
2016 was the first year of the new style.
and I just got to find a good interior pick. All right, there we go. So here we go, and we'll make that a little bit bigger. But you guys are already getting the gist here. There is the Camaro interior. There is the Blazer interior. You can see how it's very similar there in terms of look and feel. Oh, it's kind of funky because I love how the Blazer has like a Silverado steering wheel, whereas the Camaro has its own distinct steering wheel, but the rest of
Yeah,
it's all there.
yeah. I mean, I said it adds a little bit more, given more space over the Camaro. It has some more cubbies and stuff like that. Um, I like the RS model has the cool red. I mean, it's nothing huge, but like the red has red accents on the vents. It has red stitching on the seats and the steering wheel. Should it stands out to me, especially the RS does amongst the other crossovers in the field that go for a more tame look. We looked at the Palisade, not the Palisade, the Telluride.
Yeah,
She just wasn't a fan of the looks of the Telluride. I
which
was
I
actually
feel
just
like it's a very classy car. Now the
no,
Palisade, I will say, the Palisade looks like a Decepticon by
yeah.
comparison, but
Um, I like the looks of the Telluride. I mean, my mom doesn't. Just like I mean, such is life. That's cars. Um, everyone's gonna find a car ugly that someone else thinks is gorgeous. So, we looked at the Ford Edge. That was a strong contender. Um, it had many of the same features. They're roughly the same size, within inch here, inch there of each other. The I mean, I we looked at the Edge Titanium. I think it was. She did not like. I almost had her test driving an Edge ST, but she did not like the suede or Alcantara inserts in the seats.
now to be fair, those do get pretty gross. Like honestly,
Yeah,
I think it's dumb that they put that, like, not
yeah.
even in like
Well,
a SC is dumb. I mean, I think it's dumb that they put that in an
I don't know why you at least wouldn't make it optional because
because
like
it's not like you're
I,
buying an Edge ST as a track.
yeah, like, I don't need that. Like, I would rather have heated and cooled leather seats in an Edge
Yeah,
ST
makes way
than
more sense.
the shitty Alcantara or
No,
suede.
even
Um,
the Focus STs had a leather option.
to be fair, that option sucked. Those were like bench seats.
No,
The
because they also had the Recaro. They had Recaro
yeah,
options too.
yeah. No. They only had two different style seats in the Focus ST. And you either got the Recaros, which if you are any bigger than I guess they did have leather covered Recaros.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So
Yes, I think you're talking about the base seats in the Focus ST.
no, the base seats are like economy car seats with an ST badge on. Well,
Yeah,
no, to
and
be
there's
fair, they were bolstered. They did have
they're yeah
bolstering.
bolstered.
Hey, it's not that terrible.
Okay,
Speaking as somebody who has no, actually, to be fair, the WRX's bolstered is still it's about on par. And I will say, if you sit in WRX seats correctly, they are actually really bolstering.
so but then on the flip side, if you go into the Recaros on a Focus ST, you can't fit, and it's terribly
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
if you're not,
If you're a
if
large
you're not
person,
my build, it's not going to play nice with you. And my build is like, and I'm not saying because I look fit in this view. I've got a spare tire. Like you
yeah,
can't see it, but my overall waist dimensions and my height, like I have a really short torso. I don't have a short torso. I have a dead average torso. So like someone like Brian would actually be kind of your shoulders would end up like up here
yeah.
and it wouldn't be
They
as
and the
comfortable.
shoulder bolsters like end up pushing in on my shoulders. The thigh bolsters, I I have large thighs. I'm not like claiming
You're
to
a
be a huge
thick
power
boy.
lifter here, but back when I lifted weights, the leg press was my favorite. That was my go-to jam. I love doing leg press. I love doing legs. Um, used to play offensive line when I played football in high school. So the thigh bolsters terribly uncomfortable for me. I couldn't get a good angle. I felt like on the clutch, and especially one thing. I mean, I could probably get around. I could sit in that seat. I could get myself comfortable enough to go around and do like a track day or a spirited drive in it. But I could not daily or road trip a Focus ST with the Recaros.
Yeah, dude, it's straight up like, but honestly, not even gonna lie, like this this office chair is modeled after a racing seat, like, and
Yeah,
it even has like the bends in it. Like if I screwed over here, you can see it's even got like the contours and stuff.
yeah,
And you have to sit in it in a certain way to be comfortable. And like
yeah.
even
Whereas I
then,
have generic large office seat that
yeah.
you
But it's like
can
if
sit
when
20
you're
different
going
ways in.
when you're going down the highway, because it's an ST, so it's got stiff springs and stuff. When you're doing
Yeah,
this for hours on end, this does nothing for you comfort wise. I love, I'm doing the bad thing. I'm talking about stuff that people can't see if they're listening.
again,
But long
like
story
we
short,
talked about at the beginning with the
if,
whiteboard.
if you ever have a chance, it's a Corsair T3 something or other. I forget what the rest. If you just search up Corsair Tier 3, it's literally modeled, like it's no joke, modeled after like the Recaros that are in some base model cars. Like that's what the seat is. So you can already imagine what it looks like. It's just made out of cloth. But yeah, but it's just like as a whole, this design is designed for like one thing, and it's planting you in
Yeah,
place. And the other thing too, as I will say, is I love that honestly, like leather bucket seats are kind of almost counterintuitive too, because leather doesn't plant you as well, which means that you're actually going to be more uncomfortable,
sliding.
like, especially if you don't have the perfect body type for the seat that you're sitting in, then you
Yeah,
are going to slide and shift slightly. So you're going to dig in to the leg bolsters and dig into the side bolsters, which that's why like the STI has the blue suede. That's what the blue suede insert is for, is
yeah.
so that when you get planted, you don't shift from that central position. So yeah, and you 100% agree with you that it's just like I have the blessing that I have the figure that works with like 90% of like OEM bucket
The,
style seats.
the tall torso too is very makes a lot of things very difficult.
You can't fit
I'm
in a
not saying
Miata well.
yeah. I'm not saying like yeah. I put my head in the top of me. I'm not saying like long legs are any different, but literally my buddy and I are
No,
the same
honestly,
height.
I would rather have long legs than a tall torso like you
My
have.
my buddy and I are the same height, and when I got into his car, I hit my head on the door sill trying to get into the seat, and then I sit in the seat and like my head's in the ceiling because he has like longer legs. Like I think his like inseam was like 4 inches longer than mine, at least, probably close to 6. Um, yeah, I have a very tall torso, which also makes shirts very hard to find good shirts that fit and are comfortable.
Because it's either too big and baggy and long enough, or
Yep.
it's the right fit, and every time you like lift your arm slightly, you're showing people your navel.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's all my shirts hit me like, I mean, it's like, too, is, yeah, if you buy a shirt that might be long enough, well, then it's baggy in the sleeves or in the chest. And it's just, not that many places make tall shirts. So it's like, no, it's just a
Yeah.
struggle.
No, I don't. I do not envy you. Luckily, I'm dead average. If I when I so the one thing issue I run into is because I'm too wide on the front end. Medium shirts don't fit me properly anymore. When I am like proper fitness, which I'm working at, I actually started losing a few pounds thanks to VR and Beat Saber. So it's nerd exercise, but hey, burning 400 calories a day on average while still having fun, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Um, that being said, when I am at proper svelte, like I fit medium, like medium shirts fit me, 34-inch waist pants fit me, seats fit me, all sorts of things fit me, and I just barely fit in an S2000. Like my no joke, my seat is at maximum slide back, but I fit just right. That for track use, I fit just fine. Now, it's kind of awkward for daily use sometimes because like genuinely if I have my foot on the clutch but not depressed, my
Yeah.
knee is touching the bottom of the steering wheel. But like when you're out racing and stuff, like you're shifting before you go into the corner, so you're not turning the wheel, so it's fine. It's mostly in like the awkward daily drive situation where like you go into a corner and then you're stuck behind your mom's Blazer, and I have to downshift mid corner, otherwise the engine bogs, and that's where I run into the
Yeah.
issue where it's like my hands turn to the right, my knee comes up, and my knee hits my hand because I'm holding the wheel and trying to do a downshift there. So it's like it's technically not perfect, but it is very adequate enough for me to do what I need to do. But it's a small cockpit, and so for
Yeah.
that reason, I fit in small cars, not perfectly, actually just short of perfectly. I fit in small cars, which is nice.
Yeah.
Then I
There's
get in like Brian's Charger and getting the seat into the right position, like no joke, like it's like something out of a fucking sitcom. When I drove his Charger, I went.
well, you should see you should see me and my wife when we switch off in a car. She's literally a head taller than me. She's like 5'2". Um, Yeah, I've banged my knee off the dash so many times because I forget she drove something last, and I go in and I grab the steering wheel and I'm getting myself in, and my left or my right knee goes in and just pounds right off the dash because it's trying to get around the front of the seat to
Yeah.
slide over, and then it just goes right into the dashboard because I forgot she drove it and the seat is touching the dashboard.
Yep. It's the same thing every time my mom drives something of mine or one of my girlfriend's nurses drives the van. It's like when I try to get in, it literally cuts off the circulation to the steering wheel and the seat cut off circulation to my thigh because it's just so close and tight together. Now that's just because their seating posture is weird because she's not that much smaller than me. She just sits weird. Like, dude, I hate whenever you sit in the in the car of somebody who's not like car oriented because some of them like sit in ways that make no sense. Like somebody who's like 6 inches shorter than you has the seat
Mm,
lower than you would have it and leaned back all the way and shit. And you're just like, how do you see? How do
yeah,
you operate like this?
yeah,
It's just bizarre, but say la vie. But yeah, so anyway, continue with your shopping stories.
yeah. We gone on so many tangents here. So yeah, yeah. Like actually, speaking of size, we did look too at like a GMC terrain because once I convinced my mom that getting another 3 row crossover when she's an empty nester, you know, just isn't necessary. And she has access to a suburban she can borrow if need be. So I'm like, just downsize a little bit, have you something easier to drive and park. So we glanced at the GMC terrain. It has decent trunk space. The biggest issue was the width because it's basically a Chevy Equinox. It's a compact crossover. When I sat in that thing, again, I'm a big guy, but I don't like consider myself like overflowing. Uh, I sat in that thing and I was like felt pushed up against like the door and like the side of the car, in the passenger seat. Like it just was very tight, for what it was, and for the price. Definitely did not feel like worth it. And that was even my gripe. And I know, this is GM stick. I get it. It's how they save money, and it's been a GM thing forever. I'm not trying to pass this off as something new, but the overlay, the UI for the radio in the GMC Acadia we looked at was a Denali. This is what they had sitting out there. The radio screen, obviously, the exact same UI and everything as my car, my truck. To me, that's fair. I mean, UI development, radio development, that stuff's expensive. I mean, if you have one system, it's less things to go wrong. But I think it's fair. I mean, what's the point in them developing separate UI radio UIs for GM, or GMC, Chevy, Buick, etc. They tried it once with Cadillac. We see how that went. The early Q was hated by everybody. Then, but not only I mean the screen size also the same. The right below the radio buttons for like the power, the skip track, the home, the menu button, the tuning knob, the volume knob, right out of the truck. Like same layout, same button, and it just really started to turn me off to it because I mean this is supposed to be a nicer vehicle. Um, and then the AC controls, exact same as the truck. Like it just, I don't know. I would have expected something a little different.
Something that feels upscale, not parts penny.
Yeah, it just to me it was too parts penny for the price they wanted to pay or they wanted you to pay. So like, yeah, pull it if you go to Google real quick, just pull up a picture of a Chevy Colorado interior and a do like a ZR2 interior. Which granted, I do have a ZR2, so I have a fully loaded
So you want me to look up a Chevy
Colorado.
Colorado or a Colorado ZR2?
Do a ZR2 because it's like the fully loaded interior. Um,
All right, so we're looking
And
at
then look
boom.
at a GMC Acadia interior.
And we got GMC Acadia. We're gonna do a 2020
That'll work.
Acadia
Oh, yeah, they
interior.
changed.
If I could spell interior right, that would help.
It's usually a good start. So
I will
obviously, like,
say, at least the Acadia, it's like a little more convex. Like I
yeah,
like that.
I'm not saying like the
It's a
interior
little more
shape.
natural looking.
I'm not saying the interior shape is exactly the same, but when it's like the same stereo buttons and the same exact layout, like it's the same.
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
Um,
Steering wheel's nicer.
yes, I'm not saying the Acadia was equivalent to my truck's interior. It was more along the lines that like just a couple things like I'm like this is right out of my truck, like so I don't know. That was
And
just this.
wasn't there another vehicle you weren't did so did your was your family just looking to buy one car, or weren't you didn't you end up getting something else too?
Oh, yeah, the family business needed a new Suburban, so we bought one of those.
Ah, and you just got a
Uh,
Suburban.
yeah, and it hasn't arrived yet. They they wanted blue, like the navy blue, and that's a very I don't want to say rare color, but it's not as popular. And right now, just with COVID and how slow the rollout has been, due to supplier issues and COVID issues, it's very hard to find a midnight blue Suburban.
So are they gonna
And
have to do any modifications to that Suburban to do what it
not
needs to do, or
nothing yet. It's I don't know if they're going to use it for any like specialized purposes. At least not at first. At first, it's just going to be used for like just hauling people, pretty much.
living people?
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
For those of you
nothing
guys who
weird.
don't know the context, it's a funeral home.
Oh yeah. So
So
since you're gonna blow that up,
hauling non-living people is actually a legitimate
since,
thing that they do.
since you're gonna blow that up, um, the yeah, it's just gonna be used for like hauling flowers and going, trailing funeral processions and stuff like that, and as a gopher car, pretty much at the beginning of its life. We're not sure. So the older Suburbans, the rear deck height um, grew a little bit, and like the load floor height, and it did not work for hauling um, deceased people,
So
and
non-living
so
people.
we actually had to move to minivans for that. But the way I guess business taxes work, they had to spend down some money, um, so they were eager to get a suburban before the end of the year. So
Yeah,
this
it's just like,
suburban,
especially with because that's always the funky thing about like when you make money as a business, then if you want to beat out the tax game, basically you need to spend
or it's
or you need to
like
spend certain things as business expenses,
yeah,
otherwise you get taxed on it. So it's like if you need something, you might as well get it
yeah,
now
and like
because it benefits you in
they
the
need
long
it because it's going to replace a 2008 suburban. Um,
Like, that's actually one thing I've been super back and forth on is whether or not to make my truck my first business vehicle. You have to pay for commercial insurance, which is where I
that's
have really have to
pricey.
do the numbers. Yeah, because it's like, I mean, you're talking it might be like
Yeah,
$200 for me to just do the truck, like for the truck alone
yeah.
through commercial insurance, which is up there because even new like as it sits now.
Transfer the S2000 to Afro Speed as well.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, the biggest thing for me is just that if anything random does happen, I would rather those vehicles stay with me. The truck, if anything happens and all else fails, and it's like, okay, buy truck. The things you have
Yeah,
sentimental value on shouldn't be business assets because then if you ever get randomly sued, it becomes a big old deal
that's
because then
true.
they become assets that can be
Yeah,
seized, or if you ever get like audited and do like if you make a tax mistake in some way shape or form and they start coming for your goodies,
yeah.
then it's just weird.
So
Or especially though if your company goes bankrupt, then
then
also
yeah,
yeah,
your assets are paying creditors off.
because the whole point of an LLC is so that your things that happen to your company do not affect your
Yeah,
personal belongings. So yeah, it's just like, again, the truck I don't emotionally care
yeah.
about. The cars though,
So
I
yeah, so the problem being there's not very many midnight blue Suburbans around. They didn't want black. They wanted to get navy blue. So the next closest one, especially in like the lower trim packages, they found like a high country, but it's a work vehicle. They don't need an $84,000 Suburban to be a work vehicle. So the one they saw, they were going to go look at, and I'm glad they didn't because had they told me, I could have showed them. They saw that there's a blue Z71 Suburban up like an hour away. The Z71 Suburban just does not give that professional look. I'm not sure
you
if
don't
you.
want that maximum off roaditude.
I mean, it's got a little bit of lift. It has big aggressive mud tires. It
Yeah, dude.
has the chopped front end. It has the big grill that's in your face, and it has the big red tow hooks. It's very much. I love it. I think the Z71 Suburbans and Tahoes of this gen are the best yet, but it's definitely not a what they were looking for.
Yeah,
So they
it's
ended up
not the
finding
suit
a
wearing. It's the
yeah,
it's the
cool.
yeah,
It's
it's the
it's the
dad.
cargo shorts. It's the
Yeah, it's
cargo
the
shorts.
cargo shorts dad
Um,
versus the polo and
the
slacks dad.
yeah. So they went with just an LT. Um, it's it showed up in the dealer's inventory, but it hasn't arrived at the dealer yet from the transport truck. So we did technically buy that when we first started shopping. Yeah, I'm trying to think. What else we glanced at? Like I said, we looked at the Edge. We stopped and looked at Lincoln. Unfortunately, just they were all out of the price range. Um, my mom thought they looked sharp. It was, like I said, just too expensive. And then we glanced at Cadillac for like the XT5 or XT6. Again, kind of too expensive for what you're getting, what she was wanting to pay. Toyota Highlander. She looked at the Forerunner, the Highlander, and the Rav4. She actually liked the Rav4, but wanted something a little bigger. So we looked at the Highlander. She liked the Highlander a lot, but again, it was a larger 3 row. So she really kind of settled on the midsize, and it came down to the Edge of the Blazer, and I mean, ultimately the looks of the Blazer went out, and then
Well, honestly, as this is me saying this, I think that the edge interior is kind of blah. Like, and
yeah,
even when you start going up trim on them, they're still kind of blah. They're really like Ford. A lot of
it's
Ford
just
stuff is
very
a little
bland.
plasticky. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, and like
plasticky and boring
that
to
center
look at.
water, that was my biggest issue. Like that center waterfall, um, like the whole center stack just looked very cheap.
Yeah, because again,
Um,
for those of you guys who are watching versus listening, it's just like there's just oceans of black plastic.
yeah, and it's like even and like if you look at the center of like that like the radio knob or the volume knob around that, there's just
The
big
steering wheel
open.
has no substance too. Like, I don't know, it's like not a very
Well, if you look around the area of the volume knob, it's just empty. There's empty space, and there's just black plastic. It's just like it's the utilization of space on the center console is poor.
they just copied too much from the economy cars like the
Yeah.
Focus and the Fiesta into the Edge design, in my
It's yeah.
opinion.
To me, I said to me the center console space usage is poor. I mean, the passer underneath there is cool. The ambient lighting option where you can adjust the color is kind of neat.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
very
good party.
comfortable, smooth ride. It has that. I guess you kick your foot under the rear bumper and it opens the hatch for you, kind of deal. Uh, I mean, it's not a bad car. I think it looks nice, looks sharp. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, the interiors compared to the Blazer, I think, and I think the looks of the Blazer and the outside are a little better as well. The Edge, to me, especially the titanium is not as bad, but some of the lower trims of the Edge are just look like an overinflated Focus too much.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so that was car shopping. Um, she hasn't bought one yet. She's still looking to find
the
the
right
one she
Blazer.
wants. Yeah. I mean, I guess with all those year-end discounts, inventory is low at a lot of places.
Yeah, oh my god, that's the other thing too that I'm really looking into is it's like I'm buying at like one of the best. I would potentially be buying a truck at one of the best times to buy a truck. So that's the other thing is I may even be able to get like a nicer truck, like even
If
nicer
you
than
wait till like next week, I'm sure a lot more will pop up.
yeah, and that's what I'm kind of leaning on right now. Is like right now I'm test driving tomorrow just to see what they feel like, so I can figure out if I want to hammer on dot because I live in St. Louis, so there's enough dealerships of each kind that it's like you really should target what vehicle specifically you want first, and then once you have that pegged
Yeah,
down, then you go to like all 20 dealerships in the area and start shopping around for the one. But it's like
yeah,
that's the biggest thing is it's like I might be able to find a spicy enough deal when, when they've got 2020s
yeah,
they want to shove out the door. Because that's the thing is, especially with trucks, like that's when you see, the $10,000 price slashing because they want to scoot the 2020 out the door to make room
yeah,
for the 2021. So suddenly, like that $40,000 truck is a $30,000 truck. Now that being said, I'm still trying to keep it in the mid 20s because like the jump from like 25 to 30 is like $100 a month, which is
yeah,
it's of right now I'd like to keep because once you factor in insurance and a bunch of other stuff, it's like it goes up pretty quick. Even
yeah,
right now, like I said, before we even start podcasting today, I'm like, man, I gotta cut some money here and there if I want to actually make this work. So I've got to get through, and the at the end of the day, I probably also am just gonna end up like I think I may just end up going full YOLO and then just getting something, and then just using that as a kick in the pants to kick up my side hustle to
yeah,
just make sure because if I can just dragging an extra 200 $300 a month isn't hard. I just have to do stuff to actually bring it in. Like hell, I just made $100 working on someone's machine. I've got web dev clients coming in, offering to do freelance repair work and other stuff like that. Just random different things that can bring in
yeah,
an extra few $100 a month if I just make that mental effort to do it. It's just a matter of doing it and doing it consistently. And
yeah,
likewise, also being like if I get a web client and they pay me $1,000 for a website, then using that to pay off the truck for the next 3 to 4 months
yeah,
versus using it immediately, which is like I was telling you. Originally, I was full steam ahead on hardtop, but now I'm actually considering because I've got like 6 grand, 6 or 7 grand that's just sitting around right now, and so that like 6 or 7 grand, very well I could just do like $2,000 down and then have all my payments squared away for a few months.
yeah,
So we'll end up seeing what makes because like I said, honestly, the truck makes more sense than the hardtop because the hardtop is just a means to an end for a roll bar and harness bar,
yeah,
so that I can get a proper seat and all the other stuff. Which if I put those, like I can survive without those for another year, another few months, and then if I get more web dev business, sweet, it's more money to throw at it. But I do have an okay seat for now, and I'm still learning. That's the other thing too. Is it's like a lot of my money, the seat is nice though. Like that's the
yeah,
biggest thing is I do still shift around a bit, and my S2000 holds way more lateral G's
yeah.
than what it did stock. So there's definitely
Okay.
some shuffling going around in my
Yeah.
life. What are you looking at? Did you find something interesting? You look distracted. Are you looking into
Myself,
something?
I was glancing at something about the Blazer. My
Oh,
bad. Listen to you go on and on.
so, anywho, I think that's a solid amount of side
Yeah.
tangenting. I'm kind of torn. We can either end it now or we can go over some quick newsy bits. There
I
is,
think it's a good place to end.
yeah,
We got enough tangents in about side projects and car shopping. I would like to wrap up my segment about mid-sized crossovers.
yeah, go for it.
While I understand, obviously not everyone's cup of tea. Um, for someone that just wants a car, it's a great spot. You have ample storage. You have a softer ride. Generally they have a bit better ride than a comparable sedan. They'll generally, well, depending on the options, have a bit more sidewall or have a bit more suspension travel. Not saying these are all off-road beasts, or not really. Many of them are really pretending to be. Um, I don't get the hate for them personally. It's just the next version of a minivan. And while it might sacrifice some practicality from a minivan, a lot of people prefer the looks and the styling. And
Minivans are king. I hate that Americans hate them because minivans are the fucking best, dude.
they are extremely practical.
Dude,
Um,
they do everything a crossover tries to do better.
yeah.
The only thing they
Um,
don't do is lifted, and people don't actually need lifted.
no, they don't. I think the thing is, let's.
They have doors that
Um,
open like.
they do. I think the thing is, though, a lot of people forget just how large minivans are.
Yeah, they really do. Like once you get the
Um,
snow and go seating and stuff going,
no,
like
I know. I don't mean as far as like most of the crossovers that people are saying, like, well, a minivan would be a better option. A minivan's larger than all those crossovers.
mm-hmm,
A Toyota Sienna is 204 inches long.
mm-hmm.
We'll take the Chevy Blazer. That's 191 inches long. So that's a foot shorter than that minivan.
Yep.
A Chevy Equinox is like 182 inches long, give or take. 183. I just was able to click through Google on those real quick. But
And some of the
generally,
smaller, like the
your
lifted
Ford,
hatchback
your
crossovers,
Escapes,
yeah,
your Edge, they're all going to be, I mean, your Murano, a large chunk of hatchback, or not hatchback, crossovers are a lot smaller than the minivans are. So the only ones I can think of that are close to minivan size are Highlander and Traverse. Those are the big crossovers. Most of the other ones are compact or midsize. Um, okay, the Telluride is up there as well, but I think people forget
Telluride an SUV, like that one's actually in the SUV.
it's
Like,
a crossover.
is it really
Yeah.
considered a crossover? Because it's a chonky boy.
I mean, to me, the differentiator between SUV and crossover is truck frame or car frame.
But I even then like I mean I would like I guess like true SUV, but like I would I think the
Front
Telluride
wheel
is
drive
a small SUV.
it's
Look at this thing. I mean, look, it's a freaking brick. This thing is decently huge. I mean, it
so you're
literally
looking.
can be optioned with
It's
captain's chairs in the middle row.
yeah. So
I
can like
think I think that's small
the
SUV
Traverse.
territory.
So is the Traverse.
I mean, yeah, I would consider the Traverse a small
So is
SUV too.
the Highlander.
Let's see. Hold
Like
on. We're looking to see what these look like. Yeah, I would consider the Chevy Traverse to be a small SUV, and then
okay,
the
well, we differ because to me a crossover is something that's on a car chassis, and then a SUV is something that's on a truck chassis.
to me, well, because that's the thing. For me, a small SUV doesn't have the caveats of a full size SUV. Full size SUV is your truck on frame or your body on frame BS, but then the small size SUVs are just vehicles that fit that niche of
Yeah,
being larger than a crossover slash hatchbacky kind of thing,
yeah, but
but
then you're
smaller
forgetting
than the proper SUVs.
that like this is bigger than a like the Telluride's larger than a Forerunner,
Yeah, and the Forerunner is also a small sized SUV.
but the Forerunner's like almost a foot shorter.
Yeah, but still a small SUV.
That's a,
It's
a
still bigger
foot
than
difference.
it's still bigger than your regular crossover.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree there. But my point, we're getting off in the weeds on a tangent again. When that
You're a
none
weed.
of that was the point. The point was that people hear minivan, but don't realize how big a fucking minivan is.
Minivans
Um,
are baby SUVs,
um,
and
so
dude,
like I said,
they have so many creature comforts, like just for like daily use.
oh, I'm not saying they don't. I'm not.
No,
Again,
I know,
this
I
is
know,
not
I
an
know,
attack on the minivan.
I
But
know it's not an
up
attack. This is a
until
support
up
thing.
until this year with the new 2021 Tahoe, all of the current minivans were the same length as a Tahoe.
Yeah.
So when
And
people are telling people to get a minivan instead of a crossover, what you're doing is telling a large swath of people that they need to get a car that is up to possibly 2 feet longer and
correct.
wider
Yes.
and larger
Because
than what they settled on.
it will do the things
I
they
get
think
that.
they are
That's
going to
not the
do
point.
out of the
That's
crossovers
not the point.
and the giant
That's
SUVs.
not the point.
People
Not the
need
point.
minivans. They just
That's
think
not
they
the
need
point.
trucks and SUVs.
That's not the point.
This is completely the point.
No, the point is
Minivans are love. Minivans are life.
so that's like telling someone to get an F-350 when all they need is a Chevy Colorado.
What? What are you talking? No, that's completely different tiers of trucks.
No,
No, this
okay,
is
that's what
how.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. A Rav4 is 180 inches long.
Uh huh.
So
You're
tell someone,
looking at length though, because again, the van
okay, that's
it's a
the part of it.
car style chassis.
That,
It's
no,
still front wheel drive based.
okay, that's the
There's
same thing though.
still
Yes,
the wheels are still
stop.
small
No,
potentially.
stop.
Yeah,
You
no.
are insane.
Minivans
I'm
are
about to just to
so
log
much
off.
better.
I'm
They're
about to
so
log off.
much of a better choice.
You're again, just like a Chevy Colorado versus an F-350. That's like going from a Rav4 to a minivan.
I don't think it's as big of a jump as going from a
Yeah.
Colorado to a 350.
Okay, fine. An F-250.
Thank you. I think that is a much more natural jump
An
from 250 to 350.
F-250. An F-250 is the same size as an
Oh wait, you're
F-350.
saying from Colorado to 250. I thought you were
Yes.
saying 250 to 350.
No, the 250 and the 350 are the same size. Have the same
You can
engines.
get a dually in the 350,
You
so
need a dually 250.
you can get a
At least
dually 250. I forgot about that.
probably.
Did you say probably?
Not the
Probably.
point. The point is
You're
dimensions
saying it.
wise.
You don't even have meat to back it up. Now I got to find out if you can get a dually
Oh, I'm
F250.
already there. Okay.
F250 dually.
Yeah. Oh, nope.
Yeah, no, you cannot get a dually. It just like honestly, the F250 Super Duty
Okay.
looks kind of stupid because it's got like all of the beef except for the wide haunches.
Yeah, but if you do an F-350 with a single rear, it looks the same way.
Yeah, it's the same truck, just different
Yeah.
engine and transmission and stuff.
No, it's the same engine and transmission. It's just different suspension and frame
Wait,
reinforcement.
really? That's the only difference between a 350, a 250, and a 350?
Some frame reinforcement in the suspension.
Really? I thought they had different drivetrain options.
No.
Like it's the same. Like there is no 350 that is more powerful than any 250.
No. I mean, you can get the same power stroke in each of them.
More you know.
So the only dimension difference between them is if you get a dually.
Which
So,
I mean, let's face it. If you're getting a 350, why the fuck wouldn't you get a dually? I feel like there's very specific, like job specific, like actually like specific job reasons to get a 350 single wheelie.
So, again, done with the tangent. Back to my point. So,
everyone should just get minivans.
A Chevy Colorado can be up to 225 inches long. Okay. It ranges from 212 to 225. An F-250 or a 350 ranges from 232 to 266. They get really freaking
those guys.
They get really weird because they have if you get
bed options and stuff.
Yeah, if you get a crew cab long bed, but most trucks aren't that big. So the point,
crew cab Colorado, or do they only ever have the?
Yeah, I have a crew cab.
Yeah, okay, I couldn't remember.
There's no regular cab Colorado.
Oh, really? I thought there. Wait, is there a super cab though? Is there like a little shorty door?
Yeah, there's extended cab.
Yeah.
So okay, but don't argue. Don't stop acting crazy.
Yeah, just buy a van.
Legit. Be reasonable. I'm begging you. That's like, okay, fine. If you don't want to go with the van, it's like someone said, "Hey, I want a small city car," and then you're saying, "Oh, why don't you get a Toyota Avalon?"
In defense of my statement, I will say most of my reasoning is because the reasons that people give for buying a crossover or small SUV are reasons that are solved by a minivan.
Okay, but that doesn't change the fact that a minivan is a big, chunking, Tahoe-sized vehicle.
They're still just so much more car-like.
It's that's fine. That's fine. I'm
They,
not talking about how they drive. This has
they
nothing to
have
do with how this has to do
better
with
road manners than
that.
any of the
You're
other
again.
things.
You're talking about something off in the weeds that
They're so
I'm not talking about.
they're so much more
That's like
practical.
saying someone, "Hey, I need a compact car that I can pack in my compact car spot. Should I get a Honda Fit or should I get a Toyota Corolla?" And you're like, "No, get a S class." That's
I mean,
what you're saying right now. Like the S
that
class drives just as good. It's not about. I'm not talking about how it drives. I'm not talking about the handling. I'm talking specifically from a size standpoint.
and I personally still think that it is not because that's the other
Okay.
thing too is
All right.
that
I'm ending it here because we're talking and we're talking like this. We're
from a
talking like
normie
this.
standpoint,
You're not listening.
I
You're
am
talking about
listening.
something different. Thank
But
you
from a
guys
normie
for
standpoint,
listening
how many people
to
actually
the
think about the length of the
Problem
day?
Shifters podcast.
They think
I'm
about
done.
how much
We're
stuff they can
done.
fit in. They think
We're
about
done.
how storage
Okay.
they're
I'm about to hit the stop recording button in 5,
in, how easy it is
4,
to get their car
3,
seats in and out of
2, 1.
the van.
Thanks for listening, folks. Come back next week.
Yeah.
We'll try
By
and
the way,
rant
I
less.
forgot to mention as this time just say shoot me an email at juan at thecolumnshifters.com and say that minivans are BAE, and then you'll get your $20 gift card to a food place. Still no one's taking me up on them, and keep doing it until somebody does. So like I said, Juan at thecolumnshifters.com, and just send minivans are BAE in an email and we'll take care of it. We'll see you guys next week. Make sure to like and subscribe. Smash that like button.
Oh,
Blah blah
God.
blah. All the other
Stop
stuff.
betting now.
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 All the other
Stop
stuff.
betting now.